You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
Brian Kelly was a guest on the Paul Feinbaum show, and look, the media opportunities for Brian Kelly in the offseason aren't plentiful as opposed to during the season whenever he's speaking to the media every week. And so whenever he talks, it's interesting to get some perspective on things. And one of the things Brian Kelly said this past summer, and we talked about it on the show, was Brian Kelly said in an interview that he felt like his team was a year away, that typically by year 3 is when you're ready to take the next step. And that's something that he reiterated in this interview with Paul Feinbaum.
So going into year 3, I think more than anything else, I feel really comfortable with the standards and the way things are being done on a day-to-day basis. You can feel it in the building. The players understand the expectations. And clearly, we need to take another step up. 10 wins is really, I think, the price of admission where we need to be, but we need to take that next step up here. And so I'm happy that we've stabilized the program, put it back in a position where it needs to be. Now it's taking that next step.
That has got to be music to every LSU fan's ears because, yes, winning 10 games is great, but if we're being very honest, it's 9 wins in regulation. The 10th win has come in the bowl game each of the last 2 years, and that's not the expectation. It's not 9-3. It's even 10-2. Now, a 10-win regular season this year will certainly get you into a college football playoff, but you'll have to do it against a daunting schedule with an opener in Las Vegas against USC, as we all know. 2 teams very similar. The last 2 Heisman Trophy winners, both teams replacing their defensive coordinators, and it starts there in Vegas, but Kelly talked about the difficulty of this schedule in year 3.
It's awesome, right? I mean, this is what college football is about. This is why I came to LSU, is to play this kind of schedule. Lincoln Riley's done a great job of bringing in great defensive coaches. They're going to have a really good football team. They're kind of going through what we did defensively in terms of retooling that defense. They're going to just restock on offense. They're going to be obviously very good there. So it should be an exciting opener. We're excited about the schedule. It's going to be a difficult schedule, but one where certainly you navigate that schedule, you put yourself in a great position for, there's 12 teams in the playoffs. And so we figured that if this kind of schedule, you play well, you got a great chance of being in the playoffs.
For what it's worth, as and I keep reiterating this, I feel like this is a comment. I know I say this a lot, but I really feel like this is something that as we build off-season narratives that you're going to hear me say a lot about the LSU schedule. On its face, like when you look at the names on the schedule, it looks very daunting. There's USC and UCLA and Alabama and Ole Miss and Oklahoma and Florida. Like it looks very daunting. And I'm not trying to suggest that it would be easy by any measure. But what I do believe is when you start to peel back layers of the onion, you start to realize, like USC, their defense was atrocious last year and they lost 5 games. UCLA is 95th in the country in returning production. We know Alabama has lost Nick Saban. They lost 33 players to the transfer portal. How good is Texas A&M going to be with a new coach? Florida is projected, their over-under is 5.5. Oklahoma, their projected win total is 7.5 over-unders. They're looking at a 7-5, 8-4 type season. Like, and by the way, the numbers back that up. Bill Conley, who does the SP Plus, looked at strength of schedule, LSU's strength of schedule isn't in the top 15 in the country, which last year you were in the top 10 in the country. So I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun schedule because there are a lot of interesting games, intersectional matchups with USC and UCLA. Obviously, Oklahoma coming onto the schedule, Bama and Ole Miss coming to Tiger Stadium. Like, all that is a lot of fun, no doubt. But I think it's going to be a much more manageable schedule than it might look on its face. Two other things that Brian Kelly talked about were bigger picture topics. One of them, here he talks about this current direction of college football with NIL portal and, of course, an expanded college football playoff.
We're going to get into a phase here where it's going to be untarnished truths. I mean, I think it's going to be, here's the reality of where we're at. I don't think there's going to be any card that's not turned over, if that makes any sense. I think we're at a point where, even with talking about comments from Nick is going to be, very transparent in whatever he talks about. There's no more politics involved here. This is about, here's where the game is, and this is where it needs to go. And all things are going to be on the table for discussion. And I think it's going to be what's best for those teams and those conferences that are intricately involved in what's happening.
One of the points of contention, the pieces of pushback that you will hear, is about player safety. In an expanded playoff, if you have a 12-game regular season, a conference championship game, and then you expand a playoff even beyond 12 to 14 or 16, and you add potentially 3 more games, do you want college football teams playing 16, 17 games potentially? Here was Brian Kelly on the player safety angle.
Well, I think with technology today, I think with the resources that you have today, you're going to have to understand that, 17 is a long season, but it's certainly doable. I think we all have the facilities to do it. Those that can't do it are not going to be part of this. And that's kind of what I was saying. I don't want to come across as crass, but you're going to have to step up to this level if you want to play for a national championship, because that's what's demanded by the TV contracts. That's what's demanded by everybody that wants to see college football at this level. So we have the resources necessary to protect our players and to put them in a good position to succeed over a longer schedule.
It's also worth noting, not every team is going to end up playing 17 games. Only teams that continue to advance deeper into a playoff, number one. And what may ultimately happen is you see the elimination of conference championship games. Again, I'm the one who tells you they're never going anywhere because they're the only reason they exist is a revenue generator. Unless and until they find a way to replace and exceed that revenue, which clearly, if you start talking about a 14 or 16-team college football playoff, that becomes more and more likely.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.